Can you stand by the bathroom wall so you don't ruin the wedding photos with your age?" That's what my brand new daughter-in-law whispered into my ear. Her lips were still curled in that fake smile she had been wearing all day for the camera, but her words were sharp enough to slice through my chest like a knife. I froze. The chatter of the guests, the clinking of champagne glasses, and the music playing in the background suddenly felt muted. My son, my only son, had just married this young woman, and in front of everyone, she had found a way to shove me aside like I was nothing but an embarrassment. I smiled, a smile that hid the storm boiling inside me. Then, without a word, I walked to the gift table, lifted my carefully wrapped present, the one I had spent months preparing with love, and carried it in my arms. And then I walked out. I could feel people staring. Some whispered, some gasped, but I didn't turn back. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I stepped out of the grand hall and into the cold evening air. My chest was pounding, not from sadness, but from something darker, because inside that gift box, there was something that could change everything. And when they finally discovered what was inside, their lives would never be the same. But at that moment, no one knew, not even my son. The only question was, how long could they pretend to celebrate before the truth ripped through their perfect little wedding? To understand how it all came to this, me being told to hide by the bathroom wall as if my gray hair and wrinkled skin were shameful, we need to go back to where it all started. My name is Margaret Lane. I'm 62 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Boston, Massachusetts. I raised my son, David, on my own after his father walked out when he was 10. Life was never easy, but I poured everything I had into making sure David had the best life possible. Every extra tutoring job, every late night grading papers, every dollar I saved, it was all for him. And for most of his life, I thought he appreciated it. David was my pride and joy. Smart, kind-hearted, and ambitious. He got into college on a scholarship, worked hard, and built a life for himself. When he landed a steady job in finance, I was the happiest mother alive. All I wanted was for him to be happy, to find someone who would love him for who he was. That's when he introduced me to Emma. Emma was beautiful, no denying that. She had long dark hair, a model smile, and a confidence that filled every room she walked into. But from the first handshake, I felt it. Something cold in her touch, something calculating in her eyes. She wasn't unkind, not directly, at least not at first. But there was a wall between us, a wall she never tried to break. I brushed it off. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she'd warm up to me with time. But she never did. Every holiday dinner, every family gathering, every small moment we spent together, it was clear. She didn't want me around. And worse, David couldn't see it. The first big crack came during Thanksgiving. Emma had invited her parents to my house without asking me. I spent the whole day cooking, cleaning, making sure everything was perfect. When they arrived, Emma barely looked at me. She spent the whole time praising her mother's famous recipes, ignoring the turkey and pies I had stayed up all night making. When I tried to join their conversation, she would cut me off. When I told a story about David as a boy, she rolled her eyes like it was some boring school lecture. But the worst part, David laughed along. That was the night I went to bed in tears. Still, I told myself to endure it. If my son loved her, then I had to find a way to love her too, or at least tolerate her. But Emma didn't want tolerance. She wanted me erased. Over the months, little things piled up. Invitations to events that somehow never made it to me. Family photos where she subtly pushed me to the side. Private conversations between me and David that always seemed to end with Emma interrupting. And then, one afternoon, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. Emma was on the phone, pacing in my son's living room while she thought I was outside gardening. She was talking to one of her friends, and her words froze my blood. "I just need to get through this wedding," she said. "Once his money is secure, I'll have all the control. He's such a mama's boy, but don't worry, I know how to cut her off. She'll be gone soon enough." I remember dropping the trowel in my hand, the dirt on my gloves smeared against my jeans as my knees buckled. Gone. She wanted me gone. I stayed quiet, pretended I hadn't heard. But from that day, I started planning. Not revenge, not yet, but protection. For my son, for myself, for the years of love and sacrifice I had poured into his life. And so, when the wedding day finally came, I carried with me more than just a wrapped box. I carried the weight of every insult, every fake smile, every time I had been shoved to the edges of my own son's life. I didn't expect her to strike me so boldly, though not in front of everyone, not with those words that would echo in my head for the rest of the night. "Stand by the bathroom wall, so you don't ruin the wedding photos with your age." It was the last straw, and as I stepped out of that ballroom with my gift in my hands, I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a storm. The wedding reception went on without me. I could imagine it, the toasts, the dancing, the endless laughter, everyone clinking glasses, oblivious to the truth that sat inside the box I had carried away. But while they celebrated, I sat in my car outside, staring at the box on the passenger seat. My fingers tapped against the steering wheel. My mind raced back through the years, David's first steps, his graduation, the nights we cried together when his father left. Did he really believe I was just an old woman to be hidden away? Did he really think I was no longer part of his life? I didn't have answers. All I had was the pounding in my chest and the knowledge that soon, very soon, they would open that box. And when they did, everything would change. I thought I would cry that night. I thought I would break apart in the darkness of my room. But instead, I sat wide awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the phone buzz over and over on my nightstand. David's name lit up the screen. Emma's too. Then numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't pick up. Not once. Because I already knew what they wanted. And I already knew they would beg. But before we get to that part, the aftermath, the begging, the chaos, we need to rewind even further. To the very moment Emma decided she was better than me. To the day she showed me who she truly was. The day she pushed me too far. The day I finally decided enough was enough. And that day wasn't the wedding. It was the day I caught her with something in her hand that no future daughter-in-law should ever have. I can still see it like it happened yesterday. The soft hum of the dishwasher, the smell of fresh coffee brewing, the early afternoon sunlight streaming through the curtains. I was in my son's kitchen, quietly folding the laundry I had brought over because Emma always claimed she was too busy to keep up with the housework. David had gone to work, and Emma was supposed to be out shopping with her girlfriends. But the front door slammed unexpectedly, and in she came, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. I thought maybe she had forgotten something. Maybe she'd be surprised to see me. But what she carried in her hand froze me to the spot. It was a small stack of papers, bank documents, with my son's name written in bold letters across the top. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe she was just helping with some bills. But then she sat down at the dining table, pulled out her phone, and started snapping pictures of every single page. And then she laughed. A short, sly laugh that didn't sound like it belonged in a happy home. I stepped closer, careful not to make a sound, but my slipper brushed against the tile, and she spun around. Her eyes widened, then narrowed instantly. "Oh," she said, forcing a smile that never reached her eyes. "Didn't know you were here. What are you doing with those papers?" I asked, my voice steady even though my stomach was twisting in knots. "Relax," she said with a little laugh, sliding the stack into her purse. It's just some boring finance stuff. David wanted me to look it over. But the way she clutched that purse against her body, it wasn't normal. I knew. Deep down, I knew. Those weren't her papers. And David hadn't asked her to look it over. I wanted to snatch the purse right then and there, but I stopped myself. I had been a teacher long enough to know when a student is lying, don't corner them. Watch. Wait. Gather proof. So instead, I just nodded. Of course. I was just leaving anyway. And I walked out the door, heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. That was the first moment I realized Emma wasn't just cold. She was dangerous. I didn't tell David right away. What was I supposed to say? That his fiancée was sneaking through his bank records? He would just think I was paranoid. Or worse, that I was jealous of her. So I waited. I watched. I became more careful. Every time I visited, I noticed little things. Envelopes torn open before David could get to them. Phone calls she silenced when I entered the room. Shopping bags with receipts tucked carefully at the bottom, so he wouldn't see the prices. And David, blind, absolutely blind. He looked at her like she was the sun itself. It broke my heart, but I bit my tongue. For months, I swallowed my suspicions, telling myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe Emma really did love him. Until Christmas came. That's when things shifted from suspicion to certainty. I had saved up for a special gift for David. A gold watch his father once owned. I had kept it safe for years, waiting for the right moment to pass it on. Christmas morning felt perfect, but when David opened the small velvet box, Emma's face hardened for just a split second, so fast he didn't see it, but I did. "That's nice," she said, her voice flat. Then she turned to him with a sugary smile. "But you really should upgrade to a Rolex soon. It would suit you better." My heart dropped. That watch wasn't just an accessory. It was history. It was sacrifice. It was love. And to her, it was nothing more than not good enough. That's when I started preparing the gift. The one I carried with me to the wedding. The one that would turn everything upside down. For months, I poured myself into it. Gathering, documenting, collecting every little piece of proof I could find. Bank statements, conversations I overheard, even small receipts she thought she had hidden. Every late-night online purchase. Every whisper about control. Every careless word she spoke when she thought no one was listening. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Nights I second-guessed myself, thinking maybe I should let it go, that maybe Emma would change once they were married. But then I'd hear her voice in my head, sharp as a blade. Once his money is secure, I'll have all the control. And I'd keep going, because I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was protecting my son. The weeks leading up to the wedding were some of the hardest of my life. Every time I looked at David, I wanted to tell him the truth. But he was so happy, so blind. His eyes lit up every time Emma walked into the room. He talked about their honeymoon, their future house, the children they'd have. And I couldn't bring myself to shatter his dreams. Not yet. So I smiled. I played the part of the supportive mother. I helped with the arrangements, attended the bridal shower, even sat through Emma's endless lectures about how modern weddings shouldn't look too traditional. But behind my smile, I was waiting for the moment when my gift would speak louder than any words ever could. And then the wedding day came. I told myself I could endure it. I told myself I could stand quietly in the back, watch my son smile, and then slip away unnoticed. But Emma wouldn't let me have even that. "Can you stand by the bathroom wall so you don't ruin the wedding photos with your age?" That was her last mistake. And that's why I walked out with the box. I thought that would be the end of it, that I would hand over the gift, watch the truth unfold. and finally get my son back. But I was wrong, because that night, long after the celebration should have ended, I got a message that made my blood run cold. It wasn't from David. It wasn't even from Emma. It was from a number I didn't recognize. And all it said was, "We know what you did. Meet me tomorrow. Alone." My first thought was David. Had he found out already? Had Emma? But no. David would have called, begged, or shouted. Emma would have thrown insults like knives. This message was different. Cold. Direct. No names, no explanation. I sat on the edge of my bed, the gift box still resting on the dresser across the room like a silent bomb. I could almost hear it ticking. My hands trembled as I held the phone. Who knew? Who else could possibly have seen what I had put together? The hours that followed were long, heavy, and sleepless. Every creak in the house made me flinch. Every buzz of the phone made my heart lurch. I wanted to ignore the message, but deep down, I knew I couldn't. Because if I didn't show up, they might come to me. The next morning, the world looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I dressed carefully, jeans, a plain sweater, nothing fancy. I wanted to blend in. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not even my sister, Carol, who usually knew everything about my life. The address in the second message led me to a small cafe on the edge of town. The kind of place that smelled of burnt coffee and old furniture, where businessmen typed on laptops and retirees lingered over newspapers. I pushed open the door, the little bell chiming above my head, and scanned the room. That's when I saw him. A man in his late 50s, gray hair, sharp suit, eyes like steel. He sat in the corner booth, one hand wrapped around a cup of coffee, the other tapping against a folder on the table. He looked up as I approached, and for a moment I felt like a schoolgirl again, about to be scolded by the principal. "Mrs. Lane," he asked. His voice was calm, but it carried weight. "Yes," I said softly. "Sit." I did. My palms were sweating, but I kept my face steady. He slid the folder across the table toward me. "We know what you've been collecting." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. He leaned in closer. "You've been smart, I'll give you that. Most people don't notice the signs. But you've seen Emma for what she is." My lips parted, but no words came out. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. I shook my head. "I'm Robert Hayes, Emma's uncle." The word hit me like a punch. Uncle. If he was family, then why was he here? Why wasn't he at the wedding? As if reading my thoughts, Robert gave a bitter laugh. "I didn't attend. Couldn't stomach it. Emma and I, we're not close. But I know her better than she thinks. I know the trail of men she's left behind. The debts, the lies, the games. And now your son." My stomach turned. "So why contact me?" "Because," he said, his eyes narrowing, "you're the only one who's been smart enough to dig. And you're the only one she underestimates." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something shift. Hope. Someone else knew. Someone else believed me. But hope quickly gave way to fear. "If you know all this," I whispered, "why didn't you stop her? Why let her marry my son?" Robert's jaw tightened, because David wouldn't have listened to me. "He doesn't know me, but he knows you, and that makes you her biggest threat." I swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" He slid another paper across the table. A photo, grainy, black and white, clearly taken from security footage. Emma in a hotel lobby, kissing a man who wasn't my son. My chest tightened. The air seemed to vanish from the room. When was this? I demanded. 2 weeks ago, Robert said. "She thinks she's clever, but she's careless." I pressed the photo to my chest like it might burn a hole straight through me. Robert leaned back in his chair. "You have two choices, Mrs. Lane. You can keep silent and watch your son's life crumble, or you can join me. Together, we can expose her. For a moment, my mind swirled with everything. David's smile, Emma's cruel whisper at the wedding, the gift box sitting in my house like a loaded weapon, and now this man, her uncle, offering an alliance. It was almost too much to process. But deep down, I knew the answer. I'll join you, I said. My voice didn't shake. Robert's lips curled into a small, grim smile. Good, because trust me, Mrs. Lane, Emma is more dangerous than you think. I left the cafe with my heart racing. The photo clutched in my bag felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. For the first time, I wasn't just a mother fighting for her son. I was part of something bigger, but with that power came fear. Because if Emma realized I wasn't just the old woman by the bathroom wall, if she found out I had Robert on my side, she wouldn't stay quiet. And sure enough, that night, the war began. It started with a knock on my door. Loud, angry. When I opened it, Emma stood there, wedding dress still packed into a garment bag slung over her shoulder, makeup smudged from tears or rage. I couldn't tell which. Her voice was sharp enough to make the walls shake. "What the hell did you give us?" She hissed. I said nothing at first. I simply leaned against the doorframe, folded my arms, and looked at her the way I used to look at students who had been caught cheating but refused to admit it. She pushed her way inside before I could stop her. The scent of expensive perfume mixed with anger filled the living room as she dropped the garment bag on the couch and turned to me. "Don't play dumb, Margaret. Everyone saw you leave with that box. Everyone. And now David won't stop asking questions. He thinks you're mad at him. But I know better." Her words were fast, sharp, and cutting, but her voice cracked on David's name. She was scared. That much was clear. I let the silence hang heavy between us before finally speaking. "Maybe you should sit down." She laughed bitterly. "Sit down? No. You're going to tell me right now what's in that box." I tilted my head, studying her face, the way her hands shook even as she tried to look confident. "Why are you so worried about a gift if you've got nothing to hide?" Her eyes narrowed into slits. "Don't try to play games with me, old woman." The word stung, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I stepped closer until we were almost nose to nose. "I'm not playing games," I whispered. "I'm protecting my son." For the first time, Emma faltered. Her jaw clenched, her body stiffened, and for just a moment, her mask cracked enough for me to see the fear underneath. But just as quickly, she snapped it back into place. "You don't know anything," she spat. "You're pathetic, jealous. That's why you're doing this, isn't it? You can't stand the thought of David choosing me over you. You've been alone for so long, you want to drag him back into your miserable life." The words sliced deeper than I expected. She had no idea the years I had spent sacrificing everything for David. Every dream I gave up, every lonely night, every tear I had wiped away when his father walked out. But I refused to let her see me break. I straightened my shoulders. "Get out of my house." She laughed again, but this time it was colder. "You think this is over? It's not. You're making a mistake, Margaret. And if you try to ruin me, I'll make sure David never forgives you." And with that, she grabbed her garment bag, stormed toward the door, and slammed it shut so hard the picture frames rattled on the wall. For a long time, I stood in the quiet house, the echo of her words still ringing in my ears. "You're pathetic, jealous. It shouldn't have hurt." I knew what she was. I had proof now, but those words dug into old wounds, into the part of me that had always felt not good enough. The woman whose husband left, the mother who scraped by on a teacher's salary, the widow who learned to eat dinner alone every night. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if she was right? What if this was all in my head? What if I really was just bitter and lonely, clinging to my son because I had nothing else? I sank into the couch, pressing my hands over my face. And then I felt the edge of the photo in my bag, the grainy picture Robert had given me. Emma in the hotel lobby, kissing another man. No, this wasn't jealousy. This wasn't bitterness. This was truth. And she knew it. That's why she had come to my house in the middle of the night. That's why her hands had shaken. That's why her mask had cracked. She was afraid. And if she was afraid, it meant I had power. The next morning, I expected silence. But instead, my phone buzzed nonstop. David, over and over, his voice spilling out of voicemails, filled with confusion. Mom, what's going on? Emma said you gave us something strange. Please just call me back. I need to know what's happening. I wanted to answer. God, I wanted to. His voice was desperate, like the little boy who used to cling to me after nightmares. But I couldn't. Not yet, because until he saw the truth for himself, nothing I said would matter. And that's when I made a choice. I wasn't going to sit back anymore. I was going to show him. That afternoon, I met Robert again. This time, not at the cafe, but in a quiet park on the edge of the Charles River. The air was crisp, and the water rippled under the autumn breeze. He was already waiting on a bench, a folder thicker than before in his lap. She came to see me, I said, sitting down beside him. I'm not surprised, Robert replied. She's panicking. I glanced at the folder. What else do you have? He handed it to me. Inside were more photos, more documents, hotel receipts, credit card statements, even a copy of a lease, an apartment under Emma's name, paid for in cash. My stomach dropped. She's living a double life, Robert said grimly, and your son has no idea. I closed the folder and held it against my chest. My hands shook, but this time it wasn't fear. It was determination. Then we tell him, I whispered, no more waiting. Robert's eyes softened. Be careful. If you corner her, she'll lash out. I don't care, I said firmly. David deserves the truth. That night, I called David and asked him to come over. He arrived within the hour, his tie still loose from work, his face drawn with worry. Mom, he said, rushing inside. What's going on? Emma's been losing her mind all day. She says you're trying to sabotage us. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised, the man who still carried pieces of his childhood in the way he rubbed the back of his neck when he was nervous. I wanted to hug him, to tell him everything would be okay. Instead, I handed him the folder. He frowned, flipped it open, and began to read. At first, confusion, then disbelief, then anger. His hands shook as he turned page after page, photo after photo, the truth unraveling right in front of him. And then, silence. He sat back on the couch, staring blankly at the papers. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. She's been lying to me. Tears stung my eyes, but I reached out and took his hand. I'm sorry, David. I didn't want you to find out like this, but you needed to know. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just sat there, broken, his world crashing down around him. And that's when it happened. The front door slammed open without warning, and Emma walked in. Her eyes went straight to the folder in David's lap. And for the first time, I saw it, real, raw fear in her face. For one frozen second, no one moved. The only sound was the thudding of my son's heartbeat. I could hear it, almost feel it pounding in the silence. Then Emma spoke, her voice sharp, almost frantic. David, it's not what it looks like. David didn't answer. He just stared at her, his jaw tight, his knuckles white as he gripped the folder. Emma took a shaky step forward. Please, just listen to me. Whatever your mother told you, it's twisted. She's trying to turn you against me. I stood up, moving between them before she could get closer. Don't lie, Emma. He's seen everything. Emma's head snapped toward me, her eyes blazing. Stay out of this, Margaret. You've been poisoning him from the start. You've hated me since the day we met. I didn't flinch. No, I've watched you. That's all I've done. And now he's finally seeing who you really are. Emma's chest rose and fell as she struggled to steady herself. Then she turned back to David, her voice softening into a desperate plea. Baby, please, you know me. You know I love you. Don't let her put doubts in your head. She's jealous. That's all this is, jealousy. David's voice cracked when he finally spoke. Jealousy doesn't explain hotel receipts. It doesn't explain credit card charges at jewelry stores I've never been to. It doesn't explain you. His voice broke. He swallowed hard before forcing the words out. Kissing another man. Emma's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked powerless. Then, like a switch flipping, her eyes darkened. You think you've figured everything out? She whispered. You don't know the half of it. Her tone made my skin crawl. David rose slowly to his feet, folder still in hand. Then explain it to me. Emma, explain why my entire life with you feels like a lie. Emma's hands shook as she tried to reach for him. I did what I had to do. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. But her words were cut short by the sound of my son's voice breaking again, raw and full of pain. Don't touch me. The room fell silent. I could feel Emma's rage boiling just under the surface. For a long moment, she stood perfectly still, her hand hanging in the air like a ghost. Then, slowly, she lowered it. Her eyes flicked to me, and the mask slipped back into place. That cold, calculating expression I had seen so many times before. This is your doing, she hissed. You've been waiting for this moment, waiting to destroy me. Well, congratulations, Margaret, you win. But I shook my head. This isn't about me winning. It's about David finally seeing the truth. Emma laughed bitterly. The truth? You think this folder is the truth? You don't even know what I'm capable of. Her voice dropped lower, and something about the way she said it made my blood run cold. David's hands trembled as he dropped the folder onto the coffee table. Papers slid across the surface, some fluttering to the floor. He pressed his palms into his face, pulling at his hair, his whole body shaking under the weight of betrayal. I wanted to go to him, to wrap my arms around him like I used to when he was little, when a scraped knee or a broken toy was the worst thing in the world. But this wound was too deep. And then Emma's phone buzzed. We all turned toward it as it lit up on the couch. She snatched it quickly, but not before I caught a glimpse of the name flashing across the screen. Daniel. David saw it too. His voice was hollow, almost a whisper. Who's Daniel? Emma froze. Silence filled the room again. Then David's voice cracked like thunder. Answer me. Emma clutched the phone tighter, her eyes darting between the two of us. And then, without a word, she bolted for the door. Emma, David shouted, racing after her. I followed, my heart pounding. By the time we reached the driveway, Emma was already in her car, fumbling with the keys. Her eyes glistened with something I couldn't place. Fear, rage, desperation, maybe all three. Don't follow me, she screamed through the window as the engine roared to life. You'll regret it if you do. The tires screeched against the pavement as she sped down the street, disappearing into the night. David stood frozen in the middle of the driveway, his chest heaving, his fists clenched at his sides. Mom, he whispered, his voice breaking. What have I done? I married a stranger. Tears blurred my vision, but I reached out and held him. No, sweetheart, you married a liar, and liars can't hide forever. Inside, the house felt different, colder. The folder lay open on the coffee table, papers scattered everywhere like the pieces of David's heart. He sat down heavily, staring at them without really seeing. I loved her, He said quietly, I gave her everything, and she had someone else the whole time. I put my hand on his shoulder. Yes, and now we need to find out who Daniel is. But we didn't have to wait long for that answer, because the very next morning, as sunlight spilled through the windows and the world seemed deceptively calm, my phone buzzed again. A new message. No name attached. Just 4 chilling words. Stay out of this. And attached to it was a photo of me, taken through my own living room window. I dropped my phone onto the counter, my fingers trembling. David, standing beside me, leaned over to look. Mom, what is this? His voice was tight, wary. Who would do this? I shook my head. I don't know, but someone knows what we're doing. Someone is watching me, watching us. David swallowed hard, fear flashing in his eyes for the first time. Emma, I don't know. I admitted. It could be her, or someone helping her, or someone else entirely. But we need to be careful. The air in the house felt heavier after that. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of shadows against the walls made me jump. Even the sound of a neighbor's dog barking sent my pulse racing. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept checking the windows, the doors, even the garage. My mind went over every moment leading up to this. Emma's lies, the hotel photos, the receipts, the double life. Every little thing pointed to her. But this felt bigger. By morning, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to be the scared, silent mother who let her son's life get destroyed. David sat at the kitchen table, hunched over a cup of coffee. He looked like a man who had aged years overnight. We can't go to the police yet, I said quietly, not until we know who's behind this. If we involve the police now, Emma might hide everything. But we can prepare, gather evidence, make sure she can't deny what she's done. David nodded slowly. I can't believe I trusted her. I really can't. I placed my hand over his. You believed what you saw. That's natural. She's good at hiding who she really is. But now you know, and now we can fix it. He looked at me, eyes red-rimmed. Do we even start? I thought of Robert Hayes, Emma's uncle, and the support he had offered. We start with him. He knows Emma's past. He knows what she's capable of. If we combine everything, my evidence, his knowledge, your perspective, we might have a chance. Over the next few days, we made careful plans. Robert met us at a quiet cafe and laid out a strategy. We weren't going to just confront Emma blindly. We were going to expose her in a way that she couldn't manipulate or deny. We documented everything: the photos, receipts, hotel records, even messages Emma had sent secretly to other men. We backed it all up digitally. David and I stayed alert, checking the house for cameras or anything suspicious. Still, every little thing made my stomach churn. The feeling of being watched never left. Every car driving slowly down the street, every shadow moving past my window. It could be her, or her allies. Then, one afternoon, the extreme event came. I had just returned from running errands when I noticed something strange in the driveway. A car was parked there, too close to my house, its windows tinted. No one I knew drove a black sedan like that. Before I could get a closer look, the passenger side door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, broad, and his face was hidden under a hood. He walked toward the front door, his steps deliberate. I froze. David was inside, unpacking groceries. If this man made it in, we'd both be in danger. My mind raced. Should I call the police? Should I confront him? Before I could decide, the man reached into his pocket and pulled something out, a small envelope. He threw it onto the driveway and walked back to the car, which sped off before I could even process what had just happened. I ran to the envelope and opened it. Inside were photos, more photos. This time, not of me, but of David. Him leaving work, buying lunch, even talking on the phone outside a cafe. And a note. You think you're careful. You're not. Stop now, or next time it won't be photos. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the envelope. David came to the door, alarmed by my scream. I handed him the photos, his eyes widening as he recognized himself. They're watching me too, he whispered, his voice shaking. Mom, they're serious. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I know, and we have to be even smarter now. We can't make one mistake. For the rest of that day, I barely left David's side. We double-checked all the doors and windows, checked the security cameras, and even considered moving to a hotel for the night. But then we remembered, if Emma or her allies saw us running, it would only prove we were afraid. We needed a plan that was bold, not hiding. And that night, I packed the folder, the evidence, the photos, everything we had collected, into my car. I couldn't risk leaving it in the house. I parked at a nearby storage facility where we could safely review everything and plan our next move. But just as I locked the car and turned toward the entrance, my phone buzzed again. It was another message. No words this time, just a video. I pressed play. The screen showed my son asleep in his bedroom. And then Emma's face appeared in the corner, peering around the door. David's hand flew to his mouth. She's inside our house. Panic gripped me, stronger than anything I had ever felt. The quiet, careful planning we had been doing, gone. Our safety, gone. And suddenly, we realized the war had entered our home. The video on my phone still played in my mind like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Emma's face, barely visible in the corner of David's bedroom, staring as he slept. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. Mom, she's inside, David whispered, his voice trembling. I grabbed his shoulders, steadying him. We need to stay calm. Don't panic. She wants us to panic. But inside, I was terrified. Every step I took toward the house felt heavier than the last. The storage facility was safe for the evidence, but our home, our sanctuary, was no longer safe. I parked down the street, and we crept back slowly. My keys were gripped like weapons. David followed, silent, his jaw tight. The front door looked normal, untouched. No signs of forced entry. But that meant nothing. We stepped inside, every creak of the floorboards echoing in the quiet house. Call the police, David whispered. I shook my head. Not yet. We don't know where she is. If she sees flashing lights, she'll disappear, and we could lose our chance to confront her. We need to be smart. David's face paled. Smart? Mom, she's been lying, manipulating, spying. She's dangerous. Yes, I said softly. And that's why we need to control this. We can't let fear control us. We checked every room systematically. The living room, the kitchen, the bathrooms, empty. The basement, empty. But when we reached David's bedroom, the door was slightly ajar. I froze. David took a step forward, then stopped. Mom, she's here. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was empty, the bed untouched. No sign she had been inside, except for the lingering scent of perfume. I exhaled shakily. She's gone, I whispered. Then David's phone buzzed. A new message. Nice try. You can't hide from me. Attached was another photo. This one wasn't of the bedroom. It was the kitchen. And there I was, standing in the doorway, watching. I dropped the phone. She's still here. She's watching us. She never left. That night, we didn't sleep. I stayed by the window, watching the street. David sat at the table, staring blankly at the folder, reviewing the evidence over and over. Every so often, he would glance at the shadows outside, flinching at movement. We couldn't call the police. Not yet. We needed proof. Concrete proof. Otherwise, Emma would walk free, and David's life, and our safety would remain at risk. By morning, I had a plan. I called Robert Hayes. "Robert," I said, voice low, urgent. "It's worse than we thought. She's in the house. She's stalking us." "I feared this," Robert said. "She's smart, dangerous, and completely unafraid. You need to trap her. Don't let her slip through the cracks. I can help, but you have to follow my instructions carefully." I listened intently as he outlined a strategy. Cameras we could hide around the house, controlled entrances, ways to make it look like we weren't aware of her presence. And most importantly, a way to lure her into revealing herself. It was risky, terrifying, but it was our only chance. That evening, David and I set up small cameras in every room except the bedroom. Every corner, every hallway, every entrance. We double-checked locks, then left one window slightly open, exactly as Robert had instructed. It was a trap. Hours passed. The house was silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. I paced the living room, glancing at the cameras on my laptop. David sat rigid, his hands folded tightly in his lap. Then, finally, it happened. Movement in the kitchen. A shadow flicked across the floor. I held my breath, gripping the edge of the couch. The laptop camera caught her clearly. Emma, dressed in dark clothing, gloves on her hands, creeping toward the counter. She paused, looked directly at the camera, and for a moment I could see her calculating, thinking. Then she moved again, slowly reaching toward the drawers. I whispered to David, "She's inside." She fell for it. David's hands shook as he reached for his phone. Do we call Robert?" I nodded. "Yes, and stay calm. Don't make a sound." By the time Robert arrived, Emma had already taken something from the kitchen, something small but important. I didn't see what it was at first, but the moment she stepped back, glanced at the laptop, and froze, I knew she had made a mistake. Robert entered silently behind me. "Now," he whispered. I hit the remote button. The lights in the kitchen flicked on. Emma spun around, trapped by the sudden illumination. Her face went white, then red, then furious. "You," she screamed. "How dare you?" We could finally see her clearly, dark eyes blazing, lips trembling, every muscle in her body ready to strike. But she was trapped, every door blocked, cameras recording every move. David stepped forward, voice trembling but firm. "Emma, it's over. We know everything." Her face contorted with rage and fear. She backed up against the counter, eyes darting around for escape. Then she lunged. Emma's lunge came out of nowhere. 1 second she was cornered against the counter, and the next she had shoved a chair toward me. I barely dodged, my heart hammering in my chest. David lunged forward instinctively, trying to pull her back, but she was faster than either of us anticipated. "You think you can trap me?" she screamed, her voice raw with anger and desperation. "You think you can control me?" I grabbed a kitchen broom, leaning against the wall, holding it in front of me like a shield. "Stay back, Emma. You've already done enough." Her hands flailed, grabbing whatever she could reach. A knife from the counter, a vase. Every movement was wild, dangerous, uncontrolled. David shouted, "Mom, be careful!" But it was too late. She swung the knife. The blade clattered against the metal of the broom, missing me by inches. For a moment, the room froze. 3 people trapped in a small kitchen, breathing heavy, eyes wide, hearts racing. Emma's chest heaved. "You think you can ruin my life," she hissed. "You'll pay for this. All of you." David stepped closer, cautiously. "Emma, stop. You don't have to do this. You can walk away. We don't want to hurt you." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "Walk away. There's nothing left to walk to. I've lost it all, because of you. I won't let you win." Her voice cracked, a mix of rage and pain. I saw the desperation beneath it, the real Emma hiding under all the lies and manipulation. For a second, I felt a pang of pity, but it was quickly replaced by resolve. This wasn't about pity. This was about survival, about protecting my son, about finally standing up to the woman who had hurt us for so long. David and I backed toward the doorway, keeping the broom and his hands between us and her. "Emma, look at me," I said, "steady, firm. You can stop this. Put the knife down. Let's talk. You don't have to destroy everything." Her eyes flicked between us, wild, calculating, and then, almost like a switch flipped, she lunged again, faster this time, directly at David. I reacted instantly. I swung the broom and caught her arm, making her stumble. The knife skittered across the floor. She hissed, spinning around, and grabbed the vase again, raising it above her head. David froze. "Mom." I charged forward, knocking the vase aside just in time. It smashed against the wall, shards flying everywhere. Emma screamed, enraged, as I pushed her back. And then, as if on cue, the front door slammed open. Robert had arrived. Emma froze, realizing her trap had completely failed. She glanced around wildly, panic overtaking her rage. "Robert," she screamed, "you promised. You promised you'd help me." He stepped inside calmly, eyes locked on her. "I said I'd help, Emma, but I helped the truth, not lies." Emma's shoulders sagged for a brief moment, like she had nowhere left to go. Then she lunged again, desperate, unthinking, wild. Robert moved faster than I thought possible. He grabbed her, twisting her arms behind her back, pinning her against the wall. Emma screamed, kicking, struggling, spitting venom. "You can't do this. You don't understand. He's mine." David's voice trembled. "Mom, she's insane." I knelt next to David, holding his hands. "We'll get through this. We have evidence. She can't hide anymore." Emma's eyes met mine, blazing with fury and fear. "This isn't over," she shouted. "You think you've won? You'll regret this." Robert tightened his hold. "It's over, Emma. You've lost, and you're going to face the consequences for everything you've done." She thrashed once more, then slumped, exhausted and defeated. Her energy drained, her rage replaced by despair. I exhaled, relief washing over me, but it was short-lived, because as we were calling the police, another phone buzzed on the counter. David picked it up, and his face went pale. The screen showed a number we didn't recognize, and a message flashed. "You think you've trapped her? This is only the beginning." Attached was another photo. This time, it was of David sitting at his office desk, completely unaware, smiling at a woman. Not Emma, someone else. The message hit us like a punch. Emma was defeated, but someone else was watching. Someone else was connected to her. And the war was far from over. David dropped the phone, his hands trembling. His face was pale, eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom, who would do this?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. My heart was still racing from the chaos with Emma, from the vase shards, the knife, the screams. And now this. Someone else was involved. Someone watching us, tracking our every move. "I don't know," I admitted, gripping his shoulder. "But whoever it is, they're smart. They're dangerous. And we need to find them before it's too late." David sank into the couch, his hands in his hair. "I can't believe this. First Emma, now someone else. Why can't anything just be normal?" I knelt beside him, holding his hands. "David, listen to me. You've seen the truth about Emma. That's step one. This, whoever is behind this now, it's step two. We need to stay calm, think carefully, and plan our next move. Panic won't help us." He nodded weakly, swallowing hard. "But how do we even start? This person knows everything. They know where I am, what I'm doing, everything." I thought of Robert. He had helped us before, guiding us, providing strategy and insight. We start with Robert. I said firmly. He knows Emma's past. He knows how she works. If we combine everything we have, we might have a chance to figure out who's behind this. That afternoon, we met Robert at a small diner on the outskirts of town. He was already sitting in a corner booth, reading a file. When he saw us, he gestured for us to sit. Sit, he said calmly. We need to act fast. Whoever sent that message, it's no longer just Emma. It's someone she trusted. Someone with access to everything. David's jaw tightened. Someone she trusted, like who? Robert shook his head. Could be anyone. A friend, a business associate, even a family member. The fact that they have a photo of you at your office means they have inside information, and they're using it to intimidate you. I swallowed, thinking of all the people David worked with, all the casual conversations he had, the countless emails and phone calls. How do we find them? Robert leaned forward. We bait them. We make them reveal themselves. But it's risky. Whoever this is, they're smart, calculating, and they won't hesitate to act if they feel threatened. You need to be careful. David, you're the bait. Margaret, you provide backup. And I'll orchestrate the trap. Over the next 48 hours, we prepared. Cameras were set up in the office, monitors hidden in inconspicuous places. Every entrance and exit was mapped. Robert coordinated with tech experts to track digital footprints, emails, and phone activity. David was nervous, tense, but determined. He kept replaying the last photo in his mind, the smile he had worn that day at the office, completely unaware, now used as leverage against him. I can't believe someone would do this, he muttered one night as we went over the plans. I trusted everyone, and now I don't know who to trust. I placed my hand over his. You trust me, David, and we're going to get through this together. We have the truth on our side. That's the only thing that matters. Finally, the day came. David was at his office, pretending to work, while cameras monitored every corner. I stayed nearby, hidden in the building's small security room, with Robert coordinating via headset. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, just after lunch, movement on one of the monitors caught my eye. A figure was approaching David's office from the back hallway. The posture, the stride, it was familiar. Too familiar. I held my breath. Robert's voice crackled through the headset. There she is. Don't confront her directly. Wait for my signal. The figure stepped closer to David's office. My heart pounded. Whoever it was, they were confident, unaware that we were watching. And then the extreme event happened. The figure stopped at the door and slid an envelope under it. David, curious, picked it up. Inside was a small USB drive. David's hand shook as he held it. Mom, Robert, what is this? Robert's voice was firm. Plug it in, but be ready for anything. David hesitated, then inserted the USB into his computer. The screen went black for a moment. Then a video appeared, and on that video was David, alone in his office, talking on the phone, smiling. But it wasn't just David. Another person was in the room. A woman, someone who looked disturbingly familiar. Her face came into focus. It was Emma. The video cut to close-ups. Emma laughing, whispering into David's ear, placing a small envelope on his desk, the same envelope we had just received. David froze, eyes wide. Mom, she's been playing both sides. She's been using me and someone else. I felt bile rise in my throat. This wasn't just stalking anymore. This wasn't just intimidation. This was manipulation on a level I hadn't imagined. Robert's voice was sharp. Exactly. Emma isn't acting alone. Whoever is helping her is using David to get leverage over you. that USB is meant to terrify you, make you doubt everything. But we're ready. Now we trap them. But before we could act, the building lights flickered. The monitor screens went black for a second, then back on. And on every screen, Emma's face appeared, smiling, calm, mocking. You think you can catch me? Think again. David's face went pale. She's everywhere. How did she get in? I gritted my teeth, heart racing. She's smart, but she's overconfident. That's her weakness. And we're going to use it. Robert's voice was steady. Get ready. She's coming for you. And this time, she won't stop until she gets what she wants. And in that moment, we realized the truth. The fight wasn't just about exposing Emma anymore. It was about survival. The moment we saw Emma's face on every monitor, I felt a chill run down my spine. Her calm, mocking smile was worse than any scream or rage-filled yell. She knew we were watching. She knew we were prepared. And yet she wasn't afraid. David slumped back in his chair, pale as paper. Mom, she's in control. Everywhere. How do we stop her? I gritted my teeth, refusing to let fear dominate me. We don't stop. We fight. And we fight smart. Robert's voice came steady over the headset. Exactly. She's overconfident. That's her mistake. We know where she is. And we know what she wants. It's time to lure her into the trap. Everything we've prepared, now it matters. David's hands shook as he reviewed the USB video again. Every frame was a reminder. Emma wasn't just dangerous. She was calculating. She had used him, manipulated him, created this twisted game to make us paranoid. I placed a hand on his shoulder. David, look at me. She can't win if we stay together. We have the evidence. We have Robert. And we have each other. That's more than she expected. He swallowed hard. But what about whoever she's working with? That woman in the video. Who is she? Robert's voice was grim. That's what we need to find out. And soon. But don't panic. Every move she makes now can be tracked. Every step. And when she thinks she's safe, that's when we strike. We spent the rest of the day setting up additional measures. Hidden cameras, emergency lines, and decoys to make it appear we were vulnerable. Robert coordinated remotely, giving instructions through the headset. I felt exhausted, drained by fear and adrenaline, but determination pushed me forward. I couldn't let Emma, or anyone helping her, destroy my son's life. Not now. Not ever. David, though tense, began to see the strategy unfolding. Mom, if we pull this off, she won't see it coming. I nodded. Exactly. She thrives on control. We take that away, and she'll crumble. Evening fell, and the house grew quiet. Too quiet. I double-checked the cameras on my laptop. Every angle covered. Every entry point monitored. Then movement. At first, I thought I imagined it. A shadow flicking across the back hallway. But then, clear as day, another figure appeared on the monitors. A woman. Blonde. Slender. Moving with purpose. David's hand flew to his mouth. Mom, that's her. Robert's voice went icy. Stay calm. That's your target. She's the one who's been helping Emma. And she's confident. Too confident. We waited, hearts pounding, as she moved toward the office. Every step was deliberate. Every glance to the camera revealed her arrogance. She believed she was invisible. And then the extreme event happened. The accomplice slipped into the office, right behind David. I froze, unable to breathe. David didn't notice at first, too focused on the video feed. But as the woman stepped closer, I saw the glint of a small weapon in her hand. Mom, David shouted just as I lunged forward. She turned, startled, but not enough to drop the weapon. Robert's voice cut through the headset. Urgent. Now, trap her. I slammed the office door, blocking her path. David grabbed the laptop and Robert coordinated our moves. The accomplice struggled, trying to push past, but we held firm. Her eyes met mine, cold, calculating, and deadly. "You think you can stop me?" she hissed. "Yes," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. "Because you're not smarter than all of us together." For a tense moment, it seemed she might break through. But then, the sound of sirens. We hadn't called the police, but Robert had. They were close, alerted through hidden tracking we set up earlier. The accomplice froze, panic flashing in her eyes. "You'll regret this," she screamed, swinging her arm toward the door. And then she bolted. We chased her into the hallway, but she disappeared like a shadow. Every corner, every exit checked, but she was gone. David sank into a chair, breathing heavily. "Mom, she could have killed me." I pulled him close. "She's dangerous, yes, but we stopped her. That's what matters. And we have the evidence now. We'll make sure she can't hurt anyone else." Robert arrived moments later, calm but firm. "She's out for now, but she won't stop. Emma won't stop. And whoever is helping her, they'll regroup. You need to be ready." David's eyes were red, filled with fear and disbelief. "Mom, I can't believe this is happening. I trusted people, all of them. And now this." I held him tighter. "You're not alone, David. We'll face it together. And we'll make sure the people who tried to destroy us pay for what they did." But as we surveyed the empty hallway, one thought lingered in my mind. Emma was still out there. Her accomplice had escaped, and the war was far from over. The hallway was empty, but the tension lingered like smoke in the air. David slumped in the chair, staring at the floor. The laptop screen still flickered with images from the cameras. Empty hallways, closed doors, a silent house that had felt like a battlefield just moments before. I knelt beside him. "David, I know this feels overwhelming, but we stopped her tonight. That's a victory. A small one, but a victory nonetheless." David shook his head, voice tight. "Mom, she could have killed me. And now she's out there. She knows our house. She knows me. She knows you. How do we protect ourselves?" I swallowed hard. We keep moving forward. We gather more information. We find out who her allies are. And we make sure that next time, there's nowhere for her to hide. Robert arrived minutes later, calm but focused. "We have a window of opportunity," he said, eyes scanning the monitors. "The accomplice escaped tonight, yes, but we have enough evidence now to track her. We need to follow the digital trail, the contacts, the communications she left behind. She's smart, but not invincible." David exhaled shakily. "Where do we even start?" Robert pulled out his tablet. "We start here. Emails, phone records, social media, anything connected to Emma, and anyone who might have helped her. We map it all, and we find the weak links. Everyone has one. Everyone." I looked at David. This is going to be a long process, but it's the only way to make sure she can't hurt us again. He nodded, determination replacing the fear in his eyes. "I'm ready. Let's do this." The next few days were a blur of investigation. David spent hours reviewing emails and messages, identifying patterns, anomalies, and contacts that could be linked to Emma or her accomplice. I coordinated with Robert, reviewing hidden camera footage, comparing timelines, and cataloging everything. Every evening, we regrouped, discussing new findings, strategizing our next steps. We found small victories, contacts traced, locations confirmed, suspicious activity noted. But the larger picture remained incomplete. And through it all, the tension never left. Every phone ring, every knock at the door, every shadow outside felt like a threat. Emma's accomplice could strike at any moment. And the thought of Emma herself, lurking, watching, waiting, made every heartbeat loud in my chest. Then, late one night, the breakthrough came. David had been reviewing phone records when he froze. "Mom, Robert, look at this." We leaned over his laptop. On the screen was a chain of encrypted messages sent from a burner phone. The timing matched the moments leading up to the USB drop at the office. The messages were signed with a single initial, L. Robert's eyes narrowed. L could be the accomplice's name or a code name. Either way, this is the lead we've been waiting for. David's hand shook. So, she's been coordinating with someone. Someone who knows everything about Emma. And they're watching me. Still. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we track them. We follow the trail. And we confront them before they make their next move. Over the next 24 hours, we traced the messages, piecing together locations, contacts, and patterns. It led us to a small office building downtown. A seemingly normal business, but the activity inside suggested otherwise. Multiple burner phones, laptops, and cameras all pointed to a network of surveillance and manipulation. "This is it," Robert said. "This is where they're operating. Emma and her accomplice aren't acting alone. They have a network, and it's bigger than we thought." David's jaw tightened. "So we take them down, all of them?" "Yes," I said, feeling a surge of determination. "We stop them before they hurt anyone else. No more fear. No more hiding. We confront them head on." We planned carefully. Cameras, backups, police coordination, digital tracking, all designed to catch them off guard. But the extreme event that would change everything happened before we could act. Late that night, the lights in our house went out. A blackout. Total. Every monitor, every camera, every security system. Dead. And then, through the dark, a figure emerged. Slow. Deliberate. From the shadows of our living room. It was Emma. She was back. The house was dark. Not a single light. Not a flicker. Even the streetlights outside seemed swallowed by shadows. My stomach churned as I strained my eyes, trying to make out shapes in the pitch-black living room. Then I saw her, Emma, standing near the doorway, calm, smiling, as if she owned the place. David froze beside me, his face pale. "Mom, she's back." I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the couch. "I know, but we're ready. Don't panic." Robert's voice crackled over the headset. "Stay calm. Don't engage directly. Let her move. She thinks the blackout gives her power. That's her mistake." Emma took a slow step forward, the faint outline of her silhouette visible against the dim moonlight streaming through the window. "Hello, Margaret." "Hello, David," she said softly, almost sweetly. "Did you miss me?" Her tone sent a shiver down my spine. It was calm, almost playful, but deadly. David's voice trembled. "Why are you here again? You're done. You've lost." Emma tilted her head. "Lost? Oh, darling, that's funny. You think this is over? You think I'll just disappear? I never disappear. I watch. I wait. I play. And tonight, I'm going to remind you why." We stayed silent, letting her speak, every muscle tensed, ready for her next move. Robert whispered instructions through the headset, guiding us, reminding us to stay calm, to avoid panicking. I glanced at David. "Listen to me. She wants a reaction. Don't give it to her. Stay calm." He nodded weakly, swallowing hard. Okay. Emma moved closer, her presence filling the room. The faint light glinted off the small knife she carried. My heart raced. She was dangerous, unhinged, and ready to strike at any moment. "Remember," Robert said, "steady but urgent. She's confident but reckless. That's your advantage. Wait for the right moment. Don't make a mistake." We maneuvered carefully, trying to keep her in sight without giving away our position. I whispered instructions to David, guiding him to move subtly toward the office, where a secondary camera and escape plan were in place. Emma noticed tilting her head. Careful, David. Don't think I don't see you moving. I see everything. You can't hide from me. I clenched my fists, holding back the fear that threatened to overwhelm me. We'll see about that, I muttered under my breath. Minutes passed like hours. Emma prowled the room, inspecting shadows, moving deliberately, taunting us with each step. Then the extreme event happened. She lunged. In the darkness, Emma charged toward David, knife raised. I screamed, lunging forward to intercept, but she was fast, unpredictable. Our movements collided, crashing into furniture, knocking over a lamp. The knife glinted dangerously close to David's chest. David froze in shock, unable to move. "Mom," he shouted. I swung my arm, grabbing her wrist just in time. The knife clattered to the floor. Emma shrieked, twisting violently, trying to break free. Robert's voice rang through the headset. "Now, trap her." I pushed her back toward the hallway while David grabbed a chair, blocking her path. Together, we cornered her, but she was strong, desperate, and wild. Her eyes met mine, burning with fury. "You think you can stop me? You'll regret this. You'll all regret this." And then, just as I thought we had her contained, a loud crash came from the kitchen. Another figure emerged from the shadows. Emma's accomplice. Blonde, agile, moving with lethal precision. She carried a heavy metal rod, swinging it dangerously close to us. David gasped, "Mom, it's not just her. There's two of them." I froze, realizing the truth. The nightmare wasn't over. It had escalated. The living room had turned into chaos. Emma and her accomplice moved like shadows, striking unpredictably. The faint moonlight glinted off the knife in Emma's hand and the metal rod her accomplice wielded. My heart raced as I tried to keep David between me and them. "Mom," David shouted, ducking as the accomplice swung the rod toward him. I grabbed a heavy vase from the floor, swinging it to block the rod. It clattered loudly, shattering into pieces. Emma screamed, lunging at me. I sidestepped, feeling the brush of her hand against my arm. Robert's voice rang in my ear through the headset. "Stay calm. Use your surroundings. Force them into a corner. Don't panic." I glanced at David, whose face was pale and terrified. "David, we need to stick together. Listen to me. Don't run. Follow my lead." He nodded, trembling. The accomplice circled toward the kitchen, looking for an opening. Emma mirrored my movements, keeping just out of reach, taunting. Every instinct screamed at me to act, to strike first, but Robert's instructions were clear. Then, slowly, I realized something. Their confidence was their weakness. They believed they were in control. They underestimated us. "David," I whispered, "we need to use their arrogance against them. Watch closely." He nodded, eyes wide. I grabbed a small lamp from the side table, flicked it on, and swung it across the room. The light flashed in Emma's eyes, temporarily blinding her. She stumbled back, cursing. At the same time, I signaled David to push the small table between us and her accomplice. The accomplice crashed into the table, stumbling and losing grip of the rod. It clanged loudly, bouncing across the floor. For a moment, we had a small advantage. We backed toward the office, the room slowly clearing. Robert guided us through every move, instructing David to watch for escape routes and to keep Emma contained. We were careful, deliberate, slow, but the adrenaline surged through my veins. David whispered, "Mom, I never thought I could be this scared and still have to fight." I squeezed his shoulder. "Fear is normal, David, but courage is what gets us through. And you're courageous." He took a shaky breath. "We're going to stop them." "Right. Yes," I said firmly. "We're going to stop them. And they won't hurt anyone else ever again." We continued our strategy, slowly moving them toward the hallway near the front door. Emma's movements were frantic now, desperate, trying to regain control. Her accomplice mirrored her desperation, lunging every chance they got. Then, just as I thought we were gaining ground, the extreme event happened. A crash from the second floor. We froze. The accomplice had bolted upstairs, dragging something heavy. Emma paused, realizing her partner had left the immediate fight, but not without causing chaos. Robert's voice was sharp. They're trying to split you up. Don't let them. Stay together. David, back to me. I grabbed David's hand, holding tight. We're not letting them separate us. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on. But something was wrong. A small fire had started on the second floor, near the stairwell. The smell of smoke filled the house. Flames licked the walls, spreading faster than I expected. David coughed, covering his mouth. Mom, the house. Emma and her accomplice used the distraction to move again, this time pushing toward the main hallway, forcing us back toward the living room. Their aggression was escalating, their desperation making them reckless. We had to act fast. The fire was spreading. The house was becoming more dangerous by the second. And the two of them were relentless. I realized then that tonight wasn't just about confronting them. It was about survival. Ours and anyone else who might be in danger. David and I had to contain them, navigate the fire, and make sure we didn't become victims of their reckless attack. I glanced at David, seeing fear and determination mix in his eyes. We can do this, I whispered. We have to, and we will. But before we could make our next move, the extreme event escalated. Emma, in a final desperate move, grabbed a burning piece of furniture from the living room and hurled it toward us. Flames surged dangerously close. The house was no longer just a battlefield. It was a trap, and we were in the center. The flames roared. Smoke filled the living room, thick and choking. Every heartbeat pounded in my ears as I gripped David's hand. The heat was unbearable, and the fire was spreading faster than I had ever imagined. Emma stood near the doorway, knife in hand, her accomplice at her side, both of them watching us with wild, desperate eyes. The fire illuminated their faces, revealing rage and panic. David coughed, trying to wave away the smoke. Mom, we have to get out. I shook my head. Not yet. We can't let them escape. Not now. We have to trap them before it's over. Robert's voice came through the headset, calm but urgent. Margaret, David, focus. Keep them contained. Use the fire to your advantage. But don't risk yourselves. The firefighters are on their way, but you control this fight until then. We slowly backed toward the hallway leading to the front door, positioning ourselves strategically. The fire crackled behind us, flames licking the walls, sparks flying across the floor. Each step was measured, calculated. David's voice trembled. Mom, they're crazy. They'll kill us if we make one wrong move. I nodded, swallowing hard. I know, but we're stronger, and they underestimate us. Emma's accomplice lunged at the front door, trying to escape, but David and I moved quickly, blocking her path. She spun, swinging the metal rod wildly, forcing us to step back carefully. Emma, realizing her partner was trapped, let out a scream of rage and hurled another piece of burning furniture toward us. Flames surged dangerously close, and I could feel the heat on my face. David grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher, aiming it at the flames. I grabbed another, helping him aim and spray. Smoke and fire hissed as the chemicals hit the blaze, giving us a small window of safety. We used the moment to advance, pushing Emma and her accomplice further into the hallway. The fire was spreading, and panic was starting to show on their faces. Their confidence was gone. You can't do this. Emma screamed, her voice hoarse. You'll regret this. You can't stop me. I moved closer, keeping the fire extinguisher ready. Yes, we can. And we will. You underestimated us. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. David grabbed Emma's accomplice by the arms, holding her steady as I advanced toward Emma. The two of them were panicked now, realizing their plan was failing. Then, the extreme event happened. Emma lunged one final time, swinging her knife at me with all her strength. I ducked, but the momentum sent her stumbling into her accomplice. Both of them crashed to the floor, struggling to regain balance. Flames licked dangerously close to the wall beside them. Robert's voice cut through urgently. Now, lock them down. You have the advantage. David and I moved quickly, restraining them as best we could. The fire made it difficult, but we used every tactic Robert had taught us. Emma screamed, kicking and thrashing, but we held firm. The fire alarm blared, the sound mingling with Emma's screams. The front door shook as firefighters arrived, sirens wailing. The two women were finally cornered, trapped between us and the fire, unable to escape. I looked at David, his face pale but resolute. Mom, we did it. We trapped them. I nodded, breathing heavily, sweat and smoke clinging to my skin. Yes, but this isn't over until they face the consequences. Emma's accomplice struggled, trying to break free. Emma screamed at her partner, blaming her for the failure. You idiot! You ruined everything. The firefighters moved in, extinguishing the flames, separating us from the fire, and securing the scene. Police arrived shortly after, taking Emma and her accomplice into custody. David and I stepped outside, watching the firemen battle the last of the flames. The adrenaline slowly drained, leaving exhaustion and relief in its wake. That night, as we sat in the living room of a friend's nearby house, far from the chaos of the burned house, David leaned against me. Mom, I don't know what I would have done without you. I thought we were finished. I hugged him tightly. You're safe now, David. That's what matters. We faced them together, and they won't hurt anyone else. Robert arrived, smiling faintly. You both did well. Emma and her accomplice won't be able to touch anyone else. Justice will take care of them. I nodded, relief flooding me. It's over, finally over. But as I looked at David, I couldn't help but feel the weight of everything that had happened. Betrayal, heartbreak, fear, and the danger that had surrounded us. It was over, yes, but the scars would remain. David broke the silence. Mom, what now? I took a deep breath. Now we rebuild. We heal. We live. And we remember one thing: courage, love, and standing together. That's what makes us unstoppable. We sat in silence, exhausted but alive, the night outside calm and quiet, the chaos behind us. For the first time in weeks, we felt safe. The sun rose slowly over the city, casting pale golden light on streets still smelling faintly of smoke. The chaos of the previous nights felt almost unreal as David and I sat in our friend's living room, wrapped in blankets, exhausted and covered in soot, our minds replaying every terrifying moment. The police had taken Emma and her accomplice into custody. The fire had been contained, and the house, though damaged, would be restored. Yet nothing could erase the memory of the danger, the fear, and the rage those two women had brought into our lives. David broke the silence. Mom, do you think it's really over? I mean, for good. I nodded, finally feeling the tight knot of anxiety in my chest loosen. Yes, David, the authorities have them now. The law will handle the rest, and we'll make sure no one else is hurt because of them. Justice will be served. He exhaled slowly, relief flooding his face. I never thought I'd get through something like that. I don't even know what I'd have done without you. I reached for his hand. You wouldn't have had to. That's why I was there. We faced it together. And that's what matters. You're stronger than you think, David, braver than you realize. In the days that followed, life began to settle into a fragile normalcy. The house was being repaired, firefighters and police had concluded their reports, and Emma's legal case began moving through the courts. Every piece of evidence we had gathered, the USB drives, the videos, the witness accounts, made it clear that she and her accomplice were guilty. But the emotional healing took longer. David and I spent hours talking, sometimes in silence, reflecting on what had happened. One evening, as we sat on the back porch, the air cool and crisp, David looked at me seriously. "Mom, do you ever wonder why she hated us so much? Why Emma? Why her accomplice?" I thought for a moment. It wasn't about hate, David. It was about control, jealousy, fear. They were lost in their own bitterness, trying to destroy what they couldn't have or understand. But that's not us. That's never us. We respond with courage, with love, with integrity. He nodded, letting the words sink in. "I guess. I never realized how much I relied on you, not just to protect me physically, but to guide me, to keep me strong." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. That's what family does, David. We protect each other. We stand together. And sometimes that means facing darkness and not letting it win. The trial for Emma and her accomplice was swift. Evidence from our investigation, combined with the law enforcement's findings, left no room for doubt. They were sentenced to several years in prison, ensuring they could never harm anyone else. The moment the verdict was read, I felt a heavy weight lift from my chest. Justice had been served. But more importantly, we had survived. We had faced betrayal, danger, and heartbreak, and we had emerged stronger together. Weeks later, we returned to the house. The smell of fresh paint, new carpets, and repaired walls replaced the charred memories. Walking through the rooms, I felt a sense of triumph. This house, once a battlefield, was now a symbol of resilience. David ran ahead, checking corners, smiling. "Mom, it's like we're starting over. Really starting over." I followed, a small smile on my lips. "Yes, David, starting over. And this time with nothing to fear." We sat in the living room, sunlight streaming through the windows. I held his hand, feeling the bond between us, stronger than ever. Life slowly returned to its rhythm. David returned to work, cautious but confident. I continued my daily routines, now with a sense of vigilance, but also calm. The nightmares faded, replaced by gratitude and purpose. One evening, as we looked through family albums, David paused at a photo from his college graduation. "Mom, we faced so much. I don't want to forget it, though. I want to remember that courage can overcome fear, and that love can defeat hatred." I nodded, squeezing his hand. "That's exactly right, David. Life will always throw challenges at us. But kindness, empathy, and courage, those are the tools we use to survive and to thrive." Months passed. The house became a safe haven again. Friends came over, laughter filled the rooms, and the shadows of the past began to fade. We celebrated birthdays, small victories, and quiet moments, reminders that life could be beautiful, even after terror. One night, as we sat together on the porch, David looked at me with a grin. "Mom, we're unstoppable, aren't we?" I laughed softly. "Yes, we are, because we stand together, and because we never let darkness control our lives." He leaned back, content, and I followed, watching the stars twinkle above. The world felt peaceful, safe, and full of promise. And in that moment, I understood the true meaning of the journey we had survived. Betrayal, heartbreak, and danger had tested us, but courage, love, and resilience had triumphed. We had fought, we had endured, and we had won, not just against Emma and her accomplice, but against fear itself. The sun had risen on our lives once again. And this time, nothing could stop us.